Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel of King Tutankhamun. Today, I will tell you something about the secret Operation Blue Book and UFO sightings around the world. A part of them cannot be explained until today. Let's go! In 1896, newspapers throughout the United States began reporting accounts of mysterious airships flying overhead. Descriptions varied, but witnesses frequently invoked the century's great technological advancements. Some sources reported dirigibles powered by steam engines. Others saw motorized winged crafts with screw propellers. Many recalled a flying machine equipped with a powerful searchlight. Reports of weird, wondrous, and worrying objects in the skies date to ancient times. Well into the 17th century, marvels such as comets and meteors were viewed through the prism of religion as portents from the gods, and as such interpreted as holy communications. By the 19th century, however, celestial wonders had lost most of their miraculous aura. Instead, the age of industrialization transferred its awe onto products of human ingenuity. The steamboat, all hailed as modern wonders by news outlets and advertisers, all instilled a widespread sense of progress and, in turn, opened the door to speculation about whether objects in the sky signaled more changes. Yet nothing fueled the imagination more than the possibility of human flight. In the giddy atmosphere of the 19th century, the prospect of someone soon achieving it inspired newspapers to report on tinkerers and entrepreneurs boasting of their supposed successes. The wave of mysterious airship sightings that began in 1896 did not trigger widespread fear. The accepted explanation for these aircraft was terrestrial and quaint. Some ingenious eccentric had built a device and was testing its capabilities. But during the first 2 decades of the 20th century, things changed. As European powers expanded their militaries and nationalist movements sparked unrest, the likelihood of war prompted anxiety about invasion. The world saw Germany, home of the newly developed Zeppelin, as the likeliest aggressor. Military strategists, politicians, and newspapers in Great Britain warned of imminent attack by Zeppelins. The result was a series of phantom Zeppelin sightings by panicked citizens throughout the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand in 1909, then again in 1912 and 1913. When war broke out in August 1914, it sparked a new, more intense wave of sightings. Wartime reports also came in from Canada, South Africa, and the United States. In England, rumors that German spies had established secret Zeppelin hangars on British soil led vigilantes to scour the countryside. In the age of aviation, war and fear of war have consistently fueled reports of unidentified flying objects. A year after Nazi Germany's surrender, Sweden was beset by at least 1,000 accounts of peculiar, fast-moving objects in the sky. Starting in May 1946, residents described seeing missile or rocket-like objects in flight, which were dubbed ghost rockets because of their fleeting nature. Rockets peppering Swedish skies was well within the realm of possibility. In 1943 and 1944, a number of V-1 and V-2 rockets launched from Germany had inadvertently crashed in the country. At first, intelligence officials in Scandinavia, Britain, and the United States took the threat of ghost rockets seriously, suspecting that the Soviets might be experimenting with German rockets they had captured. By autumn of 1946, however, they had concluded it was a case of post-war mass hysteria. The following summer, a private pilot by the name of Kenneth Arnold claimed to have seen 9 flat objects flying in close formation near Mount Rainier. Looking back on this event years later, Arnold noted, "What startled me most at this point was the fact that I could not find any tails on them. I felt sure that being jets they had tails, but figured they must have been camouflaged in some way so that my eyesight could not perceive them. I knew the Air Force was very artful in the knowledge and use of camouflage." Given the name Flying Saucers by an Associated Press correspondent, they quickly appeared throughout the United States. Over the following 2 weeks, newspapers covered hundreds of sightings. News of these reports circled the globe. Soon, sightings occurred in Europe and South America. In the wake of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, atomic bomb tests, and tensions between the United States and the USSR, speculation ran rampant. Others had more elaborate theories. In 1950, former US Marine Air Corps Major Donald Keyhoe published an article and book titled "The Flying Saucers Are Real," in which he contended that aliens from another planet were behind the appearance of the UFOs. Based on information from his informants, Keyhoe contended that the government authorities were aware of this, but wished to keep the matter a secret for fear of inciting a general panic. Such a claim about UFOs was new. To be sure, at the turn of the century during the phantom airship waves, some had speculated that the vessels spotted might be from another planet. Already at that time, people were deeply interested in reports of prominent astronomers observing artificial canals and structures on Mars. Evidence of Martian civilizations made it seem conceivable that our interplanetary neighbors had finally decided to pay us a visit. Still, relatively few bought into this line of reasoning. If UFOs were visiting our world, where were these extraterrestrials? Could they be hidden among us? Since the US government fears that this heated atmosphere is getting out of control, it finally gives the Air Force the thankless task of investigating the incidents as unobtrusively as possible. The internal guideline is clear. UFOs must not exist. Every sighting must be rationally explainable in order to take the wind out of hysteric sails. In 1951, the Project Blue Book was founded under the leadership of the Air Force officer Edward J. Ruppelt. Its mission is the investigation of UFO sightings worldwide, but especially in the USA. The announcement of General Charles P. Cabell is thereby unmistakable. Everyone can see that we do not have a satisfying answer to this saucer question. I want the answer, and I want a good answer. And hence began the search for the truth of UFOs. Sightings span the 19th and 20th centuries. One of the more famous ones took place over the Tennessee College campus on the 1st of June in 1853. As the sun rose, several students reportedly saw two luminous objects in the sky. According to reports, one object resembled a small moon, while the other was shaped like a large star. The small object then vanished, while the bigger one changed shape first into a globe, then into an elongated shape parallel with the horizon. The smaller of the object suddenly appeared again and grew quickly in size, while the other shrank. For the next 30 minutes, the two objects continued to fluctuate in size and shape. To this day, there has been no explanation of this event. A little more than a decade later, in 1865, an article was published in the St. Louis Democrat on October 19th. During the 19th century, UFO sightings were published in newspapers. This particular sighting was an account of a fur trapper from Montana. The man, James Lumley, said he saw a UFO fly over him in the forest before crashing into the trees and exploding. He reported that the craft had glass on the side and was decorated with hieroglyphs. The same article was published 2 weeks later in the Cincinnati Commercial, garnering Lumley and his peculiar experience even more attention. In 1878, a farmer by the name of John Martin experienced a close encounter of his own. The sighting took place at Martin's home, which was 6 miles south of Denison, Texas. He was out hunting on his property one morning when he saw a dark object set high in the southern sky. When he first saw the object, it was from a distance, but the object was moving quickly towards him. Round in shape, it seemed to be lit from behind, and proved to be of great size by the time it floated over him and onward in the opposite direction. Then, claims started about alien abductions. In 1896, more than 60 years before alien abduction claims would become popular, 2 people were nearly abducted in the town of Lodi, California. The early 20th century did not see a plethora of well-known UFO reports, but that was certainly not true for the rest of it. On February 25th, in 1942, radar operators spotted an unidentified object a little more than 100 miles west of Los Angeles. The object sped inland until it was a few miles from the California coast, before it completely disappeared from their screens. Shortly after that, an artillery officer reported seeing 25 aircrafts along the coast, flying at 25,000 feet, while other observers saw a large round object carrying what seemed to be flares over Santa Monica. Next, onlookers were terrified to see swarms of flying objects, traveling at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. Thinking that the country was under attack from the Japanese, anti-aircraft batteries fired 1,400 rounds of ammunition at the objects, although no wreckage was ever found. On December 17, 1969, the Secretary of the Air Force announced the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force program for the investigation of UFOs. From 1947 to 1969, a total of 618 sightings were reported to Project Blue Book. Of these, 701 remain unidentified. The project was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, whose personnel no longer receive, document, or investigate UFO reports. The decision to discontinue UFO investigations was based on an evaluation of a report prepared by the University of Colorado entitled Scientific Study of Unidentified Flying Objects. A review of the University of Colorado's report by the National Academy of Sciences, past UFO studies, and Air Force experience investigating UFO reports during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. As a result of these investigations and studies, and experience gained from investigating UFO reports since 1948, the conclusions of Project Blue Book were 1. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threat to our national security. 2. There has been no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represent technological developments or principles beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. And 3. There has been no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified are extraterrestrial vehicles. With the termination of Project Blue Book, the Air Force regulations establishing and controlling the program for investigating and analyzing UFOs were rescinded. Documentation regarding the former Blue Book investigations has been permanently transferred to the military. Since Project Blue Book was closed, nothing has happened to indicate that the Air Force ought to resume investigating UFOs. Because of the considerable cost to the Air Force in the past, and the tight funding of Air Force needs today, there's no likelihood that the Air Force will ever become involved with UFO investigation again. So, what do we take away from all of this? Scientists and astronomers expressed varying degrees of enthusiasm for the possibility of intelligent life in the universe. However, scientists generally dismiss the idea that there are aliens visiting Earth. In Pale Blue Dot, A Vision of the Human Future in Space, Carl Sagan reviews the possibilities of alien visitors to Earth and suggests that there is good reason to be skeptical of them. Much of Sagan's work focuses on debunking folk stories and beliefs, and tries to encourage more rigorous and skeptical thought. Humans have always been fascinated with the idea of being visited by creatures from another planet. With countless sightings describing similar crafts and incidences, many feel that there is no way that UFOs do not exist. Some even credit their own existence to them, and worship UFOs and aliens as gods or creators. Nonetheless, for as long as we've been reporting UFO sightings, the visitors from the stars have remained cloaked in mystery. All we can do is take these stories with a pinch of salt. And with that being said, we have come to the end of the video. Comment down below your thoughts. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more awesome videos just like this one. This has been your King Tutankhamun. Thank you for watching.